Talking to him, I said he's got this.
Very punctual. Great at 7. Good evening. I'd like to call to order the Zoning Board of Appeals meeting for the City of Ferrysburg on Thursday, November 14th, 2024. Roll call attendance, please, Craig.
Vice Chair Milligan.
Here.
Board Member Holly.
Here.
Board Member DeWitt.
Here. At this point, can we invite up David and Nicole?
Your Honor, I would make a motion due to the complexity of number 1 that we flip-flop number 1 and 2. So the hearing for Weber's first, because I'm sure there's going to be a lot of comments on the second one.
I'll support that motion. Roll call vote, please.
Board Member Holly.
Yes.
Board Member DeWitt.
Yes.
Vice Chairman Milligan.
Yes.
Motion passed.
All right, now can we invite up David and Nicole as alternates, please? All right, at this point, I'd like to open, or sorry, let me rephrase that. Consideration for approval for the October 10th, 2024 meeting minutes as printed.
So moved.
Roll call vote, please.
Second.
Board Member DeWitt.
Yes.
Board Member Lorville.
Yes.
Board Member Cook.
Yes.
Board Member Holly.
Yes.
Vice Chair Milligan.
Yes.
Motion passed.
All right, agenda item number 4, public comment. This is a public comment for anything. Yes, Joe.
My name is Joe Lyons, 16857 Virginia Avenue, and the reason that I am sitting in the front row as opposed to my seat on the dais is that I live within 300 feet of both the Larabels as well as the Webers. And so as such, I have to recuse my vote and apparently recuse my voice. So just a matter of letting people know why it is that a member of the zoning board is sitting in the audience.
All right, thank you, Joe. Any further public comment? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and close the public comment. Nope, sure, come on up.
All right.
This is general.
Good evening, members of the zoning board. My name is Oliver Champagne, and I reside at 540 D Avenue in Grand Haven. I recently ran for District 10 of the Ottawa County Commission, which does include Ferrysburg, and I'm here tonight to speak in support of Beaglemans, a local community initiative run by Skip and Nicole Larabelle. So Beaglemans to me isn't just a roadside stand as described by the zoning board or the zoning administrator. It's a vital community resource that offers free produce, educational opportunities, and a space for neighbors to connect. Skip and Nicole are not only providing fresh food to those in need, but they're also teaching valuable skills in gardening, sustainable practices, and self-reliance. They're offering more than produce. They're providing tools for independence and fostering a sense of community. So I fully understand that zoning laws exist to ensure safety, order, and appropriate land use. However, I believe that when zoning regulations conflict with positive community building efforts, we must question how these rules are being applied. So I want to address each of the specific violations cited in the zoning notice and explain why I believe Beaglemans should be supported, not restricted. So 1, zoning use restrictions. While Beaglemans may not technically fit the description of an allowable use in the RG1 zone district, it operates as a community service, not as a business. It's not for profits, it's for the benefit of all residents, regardless of their financial means. In this context, I urge the board to consider the broader public good that Beaglemans provides. 2, then it mentions a home occupation. So while Beaglemans is not a traditional home occupation, its non-commercial educational nature adds immense value to the community. It teaches essential skills in sustainability, and encourages self-reliance, aligned with the values that Ferrisburg upholds: community enrichment and environmental responsibility. 3, farm operation requirement. So Beagleman's isn't technically a farm, but it serves a similar purpose because it provides agricultural education and also promotes food security. This aligns with Ferrisburg's agricultural heritage and values of resilience and sustainability. Allowing Beagleman's to continue its work would support these same principles. And then 4, there's a residential zone restriction. So while a roadside stand may not typically be permitted in a residential area, Beagleman's is a unique case. It's not just a commercial operation, it's a community-driven, low-impact resource that strengthens the bonds within the neighborhood. In light of its positive contributions, I believe an exception or special use designation would be justified. I want to end with, when we use these strict rules, we limit culture in an area. You limit anyone able to go on their own grassroots initiatives. You limit a community to ever build. You limit your neighbors from getting to know each other. You limit your neighbors or communities to able to help each other, and that's sad. We've already lost so much connection to nature, even here in Grand Haven, Ferrisburg, and these areas where people don't even know what nature is. It's a whole nother thing. You have to go out and explore it. We don't live within it. And it'd be sad to continue to head down that way. So I hope you guys can consider giving a special designation to the Larabelles and the Beaglemans, because I think they provide something to the community that's special and should be celebrated, not punished. Thank you.
Thank you, Oliver. Just to clarify, we will have another public comment period specifically for that issue on the agenda for tonight. This is more of a general, if anyone has any more general comments they'd like to make, we'll be glad to hear them now. Seeing none, we'll go ahead and close the public comment at 7:07. Oh, you want to come up still? Come on.
I'm Barbara Ritter. I live at 17445 West Spring Lake Road, Spring Lake, Michigan, city of Ferrisburg. And I am all for the Beagleman's little stand. I would like to ask you, first off, don't you agree that there are a lot of languages spoken in the world? Do you agree that there are languages different spoken in the world? And do you agree also that there are different languages spoken in Ferrisburg? Well, Beaglemans have their own language, and we should all endure it. It's love, compassion, honesty, generosity, all the wonderful words that you could come up with that you up here on this board would like to teach your children about humanity. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, now we'll close it. Oh, does somebody else want to come up and speak? No? All right, we'll close it at 7:08. Agenda item, well, I guess it's written as 7. Public hearing, a request filed by Ryan and Jordan Weber to construct a pergola in the required rear yard setback, requesting a variance from zoning ordinance section 9.150. The parcel is described as number 700316242001, commonly known as 16916 Cecilia Lane.
Members here?
Oh, come on up and present your case, please.
Hi there, my name's Jordan Weber. I live at 16916 Cecilia. My husband Ryan was supposed to be here tonight, but he got called away on business, so you just get me. I'd first like to thank Joe and Mike for coming out to the property beforehand. That was really nice. We feel like this pergola is a necessity. We just get excessive heat and sun in our backyard. We're south facing and we get sun all day long. We're just looking for reasonable enjoyment of our backyard. We really tried to be mindful of our neighbors throughout this. We've made this pergola pretty bare bones. We've showed them drawings prior to, and I think that you may have received letters of support from our neighbors on both sides. Per David Jurosik's memo, I think that all 6 of the standards have been met to grant this variance. So that's really all I have. I think everything else hopefully is addressed in your packet.
Any questions for her about it? Nope. I don't. Nope. All right.
you.
Then I will go ahead and close the public hearing on agenda item number 7 at 7:10 PM.
Excuse me, Vice Chair, you should ask if there's any public comments first.
Oh, is there any additional public comment?
Hi, my name is Edward Rupert, and I'm the property that's adjacent to the Webbers. Since the inception of the property proposal for the pergola, I've spoken at length with Ryan and Jordan. We're fully supportive of it. If you look at the regulation, it's designed to help protect the people around them from any improvements that may impede it. This is not going to impede on our enjoyment or use of our property, current or future. So we fully support the approval of the variance, and if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. But we've reviewed it, we've looked at the sight lines, I've walked the property, and we're in full support of it. So thank you.
Any other public comment?
Honor? I would make a motion that we approve the request filed by Ryan and Jordan Weber to construct a pergola, blah, 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 16916 Cecilia Lane. And I would also like you to enter into the record that we have 2 letters of support from both neighbors on each side of the Webers.
I'll second that motion.
No, you go. All right, before we vote, I'll go ahead and read the Horizon Community Planning. An application was submitted that requests a waterfront setback variance. The waterfront property is zoned in low-density residential RG1 and falls in the inland lakefront overlay. The property is non-conforming as it is approximately 9,148 square feet, 10,000 square feet required. However, almost 1/3 of the area appears to be submerged. The lot is also approximately 70 feet wide, which is 30 feet less than required. Further, lot depth appears to be approximately 80 feet in the right-of-way of the ordinary high water mark. Additionally, the entire dwelling encroaches into the required 40-foot waterfront setback from the ordinary high water mark. Proposal and zoning. The applicant intends to construct a pergola from the rear wall of the dwelling within a sunken patio area. Section 3.270B, subsection 1, requires that existing dwellings within 200 feet establish an average setback. However, this does not apply in this case because the building is already located less than 40 feet from the ordinary high water mark. The average requirement is considered when neighboring properties have an average setback greater than 40 feet. Standards for granting variances. No variance in the provisions or requirements of the zoning ordinance shall be authorized by the Zoning Board of Appeals unless it is found from the evidence that all of the following conditions exist. 1. That compliance with the zoning ordinance would result in practical difficulties to be exceptional, extraordinary, or unique circumstances or conditions of the land or parcel, such as exceptional narrowness or width or depth of a parcel or an irregular shape, exceptional natural or topographical features located on the lot or parcel, such as steep slopes, water, existing significant trees, or other unique or extreme physical conditions of the land. Extraordinary location of an existing building or structure that allows no other practical or feasible location for the expansion because of exceptional features of the land. Other exceptional or extraordinary dimensional conditions or characteristics of the land, lot, or parcel. Comment. The lot appears to be exceptionally small considering that 1/3 of its area is submerged. Additionally, the above water lot depth is exceptionally shallow. Compliance with the variance would be impossible as no rear improvements to the dwelling could be made under the current ordinance. 2, the unusual circumstance do not apply to most other lots or parcels in the same manner or to the same extent to other lots or parcels in the same zoning district. Comment. While some other lots and buildings would have the same issue complying with the ordinance, many lots in the area would not have the same issue. 3, that the variance is necessary for the preservation and enjoyment of a substantial property right. The possibility of increased financial return shall not of itself be deemed sufficient to warrant a variance. Comment. The south-facing rear portion of the house has no shade, so the variance appears necessary for reasonable use and enjoyment of the rear yard. 4, the granting the variance will not be of substantial detriment to the adjacent and nearby land uses and properties. Comment. The overall size and scale of the pergola is limited. It would not be visible from the properties to the northwest, and the projection would be similar to a deck projection from the dwelling to the southeast. Further, a pergola will be lower in overall height because it is intended to be located within a sunken area of the rear yard. 5, that the applicant shall not have created the problem for which the variance is being sought. Comment. The applicant did not create the problem as the conditions existed when the property was purchased in 2018. 6, that the granting of the variance shall not be contrary to public interest and that the spirit of this ordinance shall be observed, public safety secured, substantial justice done for both the applicant and the other property owners in the district. Comment. Variance approval would not award the applicant unfair advantage or right that many other owners do not have. Construction of a rear pergola within the required setback area would be a reasonable use of the property. Recommendation. I believe all 6 standards are met. Please note that any motion of support or opposing the variance request must specifically reference the ZBA's findings concerning all applicable standards based on zoning ordinance and recent case law. The minutes and written record of the discussion must be documented in the ZBA's findings and conclusions on all 6 standards. Can we call for a roll call vote on the previously made motion?
Board Member Larrabell?
Yes.
Board Member Cook?
Yes.
Board Member Holly?
Yes.
Board Member DeWitt?
Yes.
Vice Chair Milligan?
Yes.
Motion passed.
All right, at this point I have to ask Nicole and David to go back to the audience. This time I'd like to open the public hearing, a request filed by Nicole Larrabell to appeal a determination by the zoning administrator the property is in violation of zoning ordinance sections 1.30 subsection D, 2.20 subsection A, 2.20 subsection H, 3.240, 3.350 subsection A, 9.6 subsection B to D. Regarding the use of the roadside stand for distributing free produce, the parcel is described as parcel number 700316244003, commonly known as 16814 Virginia Avenue. Anyone that would like to make comment, feel free to come up and speak. Just let us know your name and address for the record, please.
Joe Lyons from 16857 Virginia Avenue. Just so that my fellow members of the zoning board are aware, I have made contact with the Larrabells and with some other members of the community with regard to this, and I find that we have a wonderful example here of what Ferrysburg is. We're a close-knit, very cooperative community, and we've had an opportunity in this case to look at something that is kind of on the fringe of whether or not it applies to some of our zoning ordinances. I have recused my vote because I am within 300 feet of the Larabelles and living on the same street as they do. And consequently, I just wanted people to know that I wanted you folks on the board to know that I have inspected the facilities. I have talked to the people actually on both sides of the one being a complainant and the other being the applicant, and I have talked to both parties, and I think there is probably some good compromise that we can make within the city to continue the Beagleman's patio, as well as to satisfy the problems with the complainant. So thank you very much, and I think that's all I've got to say on it.
Would anybody else like to share opinions either way?
Good evening. My name's Andrew Ross. I live at 16960 Cecilia Lane in Ferrysburg. I just wanted to say that I did watch the video of the prior meeting so that I could inform myself more of what went on. I do respect and understand the concerns brought by the neighbor, but I would like to state for my household that we have enjoyed the Larabelle's presence in our neighborhood for a number of years. We find their home eclectic and interesting, and we think that the Beagleman's patio is a great resource in the city, and I would encourage the city to please find a way to allow them to continue to operate. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. Julie Cook, 17605 168th Avenue. Obviously, we were at the previous meeting, so you're familiar with some of the issues that we brought up already. In the meantime, on Facebook, it's been fun. We have been called classless, grumpy, evil-hearted, and we should be ashamed of ourselves. So those are some pretty great assumptions, none of which are correct. Of course, it's easy to assume. Nicole's supporters are probably making other assumptions too, that she is completely blameless and innocent in the situation. They would be incorrect again. I'm pretty certain they are not aware that Nicole has refused to talk to us for several months now. And if she had allowed us to speak to her, we could have avoided this entire political fiasco. All the pomp and circumstance. We probably wouldn't even be standing here today if we could have just spoken neighbor to neighbor right across the street.
Raise the microphone a little bit.
Oh, certainly.
Thank you.
It's actually falling down. There we go. Okay. So, like I said, if we had been allowed to speak to her and not had a gag order, we would have been able to avoid this entire situation. We would love to have open communication and collaboration with her. We are not profane people. We are very reasonable. We are very educated. But her refusal to speak with us has left us very little option other than to file complaints with the city. We don't really have much of a choice. So those complaints were deemed valid by both the city manager and the city planner. The city planner advised that Nicole should provide off-street parking for the stand. That is literally all we want. We don't want to shut the stand down. We simply want the traffic to be parked off of the street, which is a city ordinance. There's no street parking. That is all we want. And that can easily be achieved if the non-operable vehicle that is in her driveway could be moved. It has been there for 3 years. It has not moved. It is not operable. Nicole had stated in a TV interview that she will do anything to keep her stand open. I hope she means that, because our request to be able to speak directly to her, I consider to be very reasonable. And if we could do that, we could clear this whole issue up. All we want is 1 or 2 parking spaces in her driveway for visitors to use, and problem solved. That is the only compromise we need. It's not complicated. I would suggest if her supporters want to help the situation, rather than calling us names, and insulting us without knowing us at all. Perhaps redirect their efforts toward encouraging her to speak with us, neighbor to neighbor. It would be much more effective than what's going on right now. Thank you.
Hi there. Molly Reisky, R-A-J, S as in Sam, K-I, 18110 168th Avenue, Spring Lake. I'm wondering if you all have a mediator, maybe, that you should get together, because the statements from the last person that was up here were very defamatory and, quite frankly, unnecessary. I feel like this is not the place for some of that. I do have a question, though, after that. Is there an ordinance for off-street parking in Ferrisburg? Do you have that? And is that part of this, that it has been, that this has been a violation consistently on a daily basis, is one of my questions. That was not even why I came up here to ask you, or to say, but I do have that question. I have supported the Larabells with donations of my recycling, of my landscaping containers and things like that over the years. But I was listening to your ordinances 1 through 3, and when you were just doing that in conjunction with the Webbers, and the first 3 do not seem to be outside the scope of what could be appealed. The size of the parcel seems like it can support, because it's such a small lot, and what they grow on, they grow in raised beds and things like that. It doesn't seem like the size of their lot is not something that could not support that. The topography of their land does not inhibit stormwater runoff or change the flow to the detriment of neighbors. So I don't know if any of that has been addressed. And do any of the ordinances that are technically said to be outside this order, are they so outside this that they don't warrant a variance? I guess that's the question that so many of us are here to ask. I understand that there might be some fighting between them, but at the bottom, in the very heart of this, it's about a variance for these folks to keep doing what they're doing. So that's what you're here to decide. It's not about deciding whether or not people are fighting together. Thanks.
I'll be quick since I already spoke, but my name is Oliver Champagne, 540 D Avenue, Grand Haven. While I don't want to focus on attacking people's character, I do think it's important that those conversations do happen neighbor to neighbor, and the fact that they're not happening is probably because something happened that people can no longer talk to each other, and it does have to become more public and stuff like that. But my issue is, that was brought up, that the issue is parking. When I was reading all of the ordinances that the Larabells broke, nothing is mentioned of parking. It's all about a roadside stand. It's about providing free produce and regulations regarding that. So I want to emphasize that, once again, I don't even know if I'd argue that they're fully overbridging that, because they're not a business. It's a community service that's provided for free. And they're providing something great to the community. I think a lot of people, I'm sure you guys have plenty of emails providing support, because it's something you don't see in a community, and it's bringing bonds together. I would hope in the future that this opportunity would even bond their neighbors together, and they could find that calamity to come together on that. But in all, we let government and rules like this take away the heart and soul of communities, and I hope that in your decisions today you don't continue down that path. So thank you. Have a good day.
Anyone else that would like to speak?
Edward Rupert, 16908 Cecilia Lane. I hadn't planned on speaking on this topic, but when I first read this, it was in tonight's agenda, I was a little befuddled, a little shocked that the table that my kids get to go down and pick produce off of was called a stand. And the reality of it is, it's a table with free produce. It's not a roadside stand. I don't know about the parking. When we've gone by it, it's not been busy. It's never seemed to cause an issue. But when my wife and I were discussing it, I said, "No, the tables be considered a roadside stand," and she was shocked as I was. But we've had a lot of enjoyment from it. The kids have learned from it. We're fully supportive of continuing in some degree having this resource available. They've been very kind to the children. They've learned a lot, and just we're throwing our support behind that too. So I guess we're supporting everybody.
I'm Michelle Plowman, and I live in 17583 168, and we're their next door neighbors, and we haven't had issues with traffic or parking or anything, and I'm friends with them, and we do dinners and hang out and stuff with them in their yard, and I have never seen a traffic problem or anything, and we're usually out there all summer long. So I just wanted to state that. Thanks.
Thank you. Any further public comment? Seeing none at this time, I will go ahead and close the public comment at 7:32. Agenda item number 6 is the motion to approve or to not approve a request filed by Nicole Larabelle to appeal a determination by the zoning administrator. Property is in violation of zoning ordinance section 1.30 subsection D, 2.20 subsection A, 2.20 subsection H, 3.240, 3.350 subsection A, 9.60 subsection B2D regarding the use of a roadside stand for distributing free produce. The parcel is described as number 700316244003, commonly known as 16814 Virginia Avenue.
Your Honor, I'd like to discuss a few things before we make a motion. I would like to enter into the record that we have 29 formal letters of support for Beagelmans, and to my knowledge, we have no letters opposing.
Correct.
Okay. As a city council member, this thing's been a pain in. Anyway, I've had about 80 phone calls. Everyone has been in support of Beagelmans. I had one person ask me if they were giving free marijuana out. No clue where that came from, but no, there was no marijuana put out. I would like to make a suggestion for the consideration of the zoning board that we suspend the enforcement of this ordinance until January 26th of 26, with the intent of having the staff monitor the situation and report back to the ZBA at that time if there's any issues as far as safety issues or complaints from the citizens. I travel the city consistently, probably 10 times a day, probably 4 times to 5 times a day. I go past Cecilia Lane. To my knowledge, I've never seen more than one car traveling it in at any time. Nicole has provided a parking spot. If she can get a second one, that's fine. They've moved, they put a sign out, no parking on the street, which is in fact a city ordinance that you can't park on the street. It's not a well-traveled street. I don't see it as personally as an issue. There was some concern about safety on the corner because of her pots and such what. I had the report from the city here. Public Works Department inspected the intersection at 168th and Virginia Avenue for visibility. There is no brush in the right-of-way that can be cut back. So the Public Works is satisfied that there's no safety issue as far as the traffic on the corner and visibility. The other thing, there was some mention of restricting some kind of hours on the Beaglemans. I would make a suggestion that we include in this suggestion that the hours like 8 to 8. There were some complaints about people stopping at midnight to get fruit and vegetables. Find it hard to believe, but I will accept that. The other thing I want to bring up is, according to Channel 8 this morning, or yesterday morning, at 5 o'clock, they had a thing about the food insecurity of our residents. There's something like 12 to 20% in Kent County, 15% in Ottawa County has food insecurity, particularly in fresh food and vegetables. We are the big ones that provide any service to our citizens that, quite honestly, a lot of them cannot afford to go to the grocery store and buy fresh vegetables. They are pretty pricey. So therefore, I would make that motion to suspend.
I'd like to, I actually have some comments before we suspend it. Can I make some comments before we suspend this
Absolutely.
already?
You're boss.
Okay. So, obviously, I think everybody's goal here tonight is to not shut down a free produce stand, but I do think that we need to, and the planner has given us some suggestions on how we can still let the stand be open, but also, you know, conform to the ordinances we have. So I do have a couple questions actually for Nicole, or, I'm sorry, I forgot. Skip. I just keep hearing Nicole tonight, so that's what I've got on my head. So a couple of the suggestions from the planner was either one, limit products to those grown on site, or to request a zoning text amendment to expand the small scale produce sales to allow. So my question was, because you guys have a lot like on 168th and Van Wagner. Is that where you guys grow this stuff now?
No, that's a
No.
whole separate.
So that's like
separate project.
something you're gonna
It's a
be
separate project.
doing down the road,
Yes.
correct? Okay, so how much is brought in from off-site?
All of it
That-
is,
all
all
of
of
it
it
is
is
grown on
grown on
site.
our property. We do
Okay.
encourage our neighbors when they have extra to bring it, and, you know,
So
it's
that's
just a
the-
good way to get rid
so
of it
that's
for our
the
neighbors
off-
as well, and for them
The
to
off,
participate.
like, that's the produce coming in from
Correct.
off is like other, okay,
Correct.
okay. So I mean, I think everything I've seen on Facebook, even way before this ever got brought up, you're always seeing comments and people thanking you guys, and I think it's a really good thing, and it'd be nice to even see it in more areas in the community. I think about the vegetable garden we have out here in the city hall, like, could we have a fruit stand or veggie stand there that people in the community are allowed to bring? I mean, I've never been by your guys' place because I live on the other side of the city, but I feel like, let's get the word out. Is that something, I don't know if that's something we can do here, if that's even legal, but that's just one thing I thought of too. Like, we have this vegetable garden. I mean, I grew cucumber and zucchini, and sometimes it's like, what am I gonna do with all this? Because I can bake all winter and I'm not gonna get through it. So I just wanted to throw that out there as maybe something we could talk about even beyond what you guys are providing for the community.
Certainly.
I'm not sure that I agree with like postponing this. I would rather do this legally so that it's like legal, like we can amend things. The ordinances that we have in the city are created by the people that live in the city. The planning commission is who creates these ordinances. So when we try to make people confined to them, That doesn't mean that we can't amend them to bring things like this into the community. Obviously, we're not making ordinances because we want to tell people this is how you have to live and there's no way around it. That's not how it works. You know, like we have people volunteer for the boards. Anybody's able to do that. And so it's our citizens, it's our neighbors that make our rules and our ordinances that we want to live by, right? So I don't think it's fair to have somebody go out and check out their property until January. I would rather try to go about it as either we amend, it looks like a zoning text amendment that we could do. Or I guess if other people are bringing stuff, can we think of another way to have a stand somewhere else that is legal? I mean, that's where I'm coming from. I don't think it's fair to have these guys policed for 6 months and we're just gonna see what happens and then go from there. So I'm in full support of trying to figure out a way to work with our ordinances and either amend them or what have you, so that we can make everybody happy here.
Your Honor, it was not my intent that we have them policed per se. My intent was that it would give the citizens an opportunity to voice any complaints or concerns to City Hall. And at that point, and we could address it if there's, you know, serious safety issues or complaints or whatever. We could address it at that time to put a stop to it if necessary. You know, Craig obviously does not have time to go over there and police this constantly. The main complaints that were brought forward was the parking and the hours. To my knowledge, I don't recall of anything else. I think Nicole has addressed that. I think this is a fair compromise because if we go by the letter of the law, we have to deny it. This is a fair compromise to our citizens.
But Dave gave us a couple of options that we could, so we don't need to deny it. Like, I mean, if you look at his conclusion, there's two different things that we're able to do here.
Allows non-commercial and social use of the property.
We have a letter here from the city planner that we'd like to hand out.
What would the timeline be before we could have a ordinance rewritten if we were to go that route? And when we need to suspend enforcement of it in the meantime so they can go back to providing the produce immediately tomorrow, but we work on getting the ordinance rewritten?
So the planning commission would have to come up with a draft text amendment, review of probably the second month. And if they liked it, they would have a public hearing and make a recommendation to city council. So you're talking 2 or 3 months.
Okay.
So in the meantime, though, if we did that, they can still put out their own produce. They would just not be able to take neighbors' produce until we get that amended, correct?
Correct.
Excuse me, I didn't quite catch what you said.
We were discussing, excuse me.
In the meantime, if we wanted to do this zoning text amendment, they're still free to set out their own produce. They just wouldn't be able to have neighbors bringing it in from outside of their property. So they could open up tomorrow, right, with their own produce that they're growing on their own property while we look at this zoning text amendment in front of the planning commission.
Well,
We don't have a lot of produce that we set out in the winter. So
Right.
It's not exactly,
No stockpile.
I would love to see a legal solution to this. I would love to see it so that it's legal for
Mhm.
anybody to put
Right,
pro-
and that's
produce
that's
on
where
their
I'm
property.
going,
What-
because
I think one of the big questions that we have is, you know, at what point is a table, a farm stand, or roadside stand? The table's out of the right of way. It's in our yard. So what makes it a roadside stand? And according to the law, And that's what we're having a hard time trying to figure out. Is it that we have vegetables on it or that we're giving them away? It's,
Would it be
nothing
different
is
if they were on
clear
the
as far
ground?
as it being a farm stand. Yes, could we put vegetables on the ground? Is that considered a farm stand?
I think that's addressed in Dave's memo on the
Yeah.
top.
Yeah.
I think more of the problem is just that you guys, it's produce coming from not the property. And that's where it's not complying with the section 3.28.
Okay, yeah, we're
Okay.
we're happy
And that's
to
why I was
concede on
wondering,
that.
like, do you have this huge, like, plot of
No.
land
No.
somewhere and we're bringing in, like, which I didn't think was the case, but
We're gonna be
yeah,
giving away the produce on that for that garden.
yeah, okay,
Yep.
that's fine, yeah.
Your Honor, could you read into the record, comments that Mr. Grosick is written here? He's a city planner.
Would you like just the highlighted version? Or would you like all of them?
I think the highlighted version pretty much covers. Get from 1 to 3 on the first one.
Okay, okay, so the comments from the zoning company are the city planner, sorry. The wood structure is a non-building accessory, quote, structure, end quote. It is subject to a 25-foot setback from the public right-of-way, but does not count against the number of allowable buildings, quote. 2, the vegetable plant pots are not subject to zoning restrictions unless the planters are over 30 inches in height. If there is no commercial activity, I do not see any issue with planting vegetables in pots and having them in a yard and allowing friends and neighbors to take them for free. 3, the camper is a, quote, truck bed camper, end quote, per the zoning ordinance. What is the specific zoning issue, question? It appears to be in the side yard.
Just to clarify for the audience, something about her truck camper, it is legally parked in the side yard. I don't know specifically what the issue was with that, but I personally looked at it as parked according to zoning ordinance in the specific area it's supposed to be.
Continuing on to the back in the correspondence. This falls within a gray area. What they are doing is not, quote, commercial, end quote, operation, and zoning does not have, or does not regulate giving away produce or anything for that matter. Donations are optional. There are 2 options in my opinion: allow as a non-commercial and social use of property, restrict, or number 2 is restrict the activity beyond accessory use of the property. This has a higher likelihood of appeal because it is a subjective determination. The city would need to clearly determine why and what they're doing is not typical and customary on a residential lot.
Your Honor, I'm reading this from the city planner. He's even confused about what the heck we should do with this. I think, I don't know, I still think, suspending the ordinance for a year and allowing citizens to complain, that gives the planning commission time to, they can plan for their next summer planting and such what, because obviously they're buying seeds and such what now for the next year. Planning commission can look at this and make revisions if they wish. I'm trying to come up with a compromise here that everybody can live with until the planning commission can adjust the ordinances if necessary. And that would be something that they would have to do to present to the city council.
So perhaps like a motion of, like, we suspend enforcement of it now and recommend to planning, look at it and review it the next.
When can we get this on the planning commission agenda?
Well, December is gonna have a full agenda, so it's.
So January?
January.
Okay, I don't think it's gonna take the planning commission a year. I think we could get this done before the next growing season.
So let's just suspend it until the planning commission has a decision. Is that doable?
Yep.
Okay. At this point, I'm gonna go ahead and read into the record,
We
or
don't need to read it into the record, it's been suspended.
we don't need to read in the whole?
I would think not.
Craig,
Correct.
I think we need to make a motion. We need a second. We need to vote.
do you want me to read this?
You might want to just read the first top of the second page.
Just top of the second page. All right, the commentary section in the report is the primary argument from the appellant is that the free produce table is not a roadside stand. The term makes no difference as it relates to the city's determination on the matter. The city could have referred a reference to free produce table inside the same sections. The city used the term roadside stand in a general sense as a table/structure used for distributing free produce and other items. Is that what you would like read, or would you want me to keep going here?
You might just want to read the conclusion on the next page, his recommendations.
All right. The conclusion of the same document. Overall, my opinion is that the determination was correct and should stand. However, I suggest two potential courses of action. This may allow for a complete solution. One, limit the products to those grown on site and comply with section 3.280, subsection A, a small scale produce sales attached. The second option was to request a zoning text amendment to expand 3.280, subsection A, small scale produce sales, to allow the incorporation of products not grown up or produced on the site. With that being read in at this point, I will hear any motions to approve or to not approve a request filed by Nicole Larabelle, an appeal to a determination by the zoning administrator. The property is in violation of the zoning ordinances, section 1.30, subsection D, 2.20, subsection A, 2.20, subsection H, 3.240, 3.350, subsection A, 9.60, B to D, regarding the use of a roadside stand for distributing free produce. The parcel is described as parcel number 700316244003, commonly known as 16814 Virginia Avenue.
Your Honor, I would make a motion we approve it.
Clarification here, you're approving
You asked for a motion on
to approve
the request. Or would you rather I put into
I'm not clear as to what we're expecting as far as the
Well-
coverage of the agenda.
well, we need to, I thought we were gonna suspend it. What was your,
I'll make a motion if you'd like.
what?
Do you want me to make a motion?
Yes.
So my motion is that we table this and we send a request to the planning commission to do a zoning text amendment to expand the 3.280, the small scales produce sales, to allow the incorporation of products not grown or produced on the site. Is that right, Chris?
Does that include suspension of the enforcement right now?
No, that's, the word tabling, it's already, no, they can put vegetables that they're growing on their own property on there right now. I don't think that it's gonna,
There's nothing wrong with that, so we could continue doing that.
as long as you're not
regardless,
bringing
is
in
what you're
produce
saying?
from other
Correct.
property, yeah.
Okay.
That's huge to know.
Yep.
Yeah.
Greg,
That's all we need to do.
Greg, a technical question. Does it have to be a unanimous vote because there's only three of us?
Yes.
I'll support Heather's motion. Roll call vote, please.
Board Member DeWitt,
No.
Board Member Holly,
Yes.
Vice Chair Milligan,
Yes.
motion failed.
What does this mean?
Excuse me, motion failed.
Correct.
He said no.
So now, shall we look at other options or not?
We could
I don't know where to go from here, Greg. Give us a heads up.
Can we entertain another motion?
Yes.
Okay, so we have options there. So what was your proposal? And then let's hear yours again, and let's see if we can find a compromise between the three of us here.
I feel like even the Larrabees were,
I think we all want the same thing
Agreed
here
on, like-
amongst everybody up here, if my feeling is correct. So let's just figure out where our verbiages aren't lining up, and let's make sure we can get back to letting them give produce out to those that need it.
The motion I would make is we suspend the enforcement of the ordinance for 1 year. That gives the planning commission time. Staff members have opportunity to, hear citizen complaints. If there's any complaints about safety or traffic, that would be my motion.
Yours is to just send it to the planning commission and allow that.
So the planning commission is gonna look at this regardless, right? I would assume you're gonna bring it to the planning commission, you're the rep.
I just shut me down. I'm not sure if you're understanding what my motion was. They
Well, I
can still
understand
have
what your motion
vegetables
is.
there.
What I'm trying to provide is the Larabelle's clarification as to what they can do.
I
going
think, were you
forward.
guys clear on that motion?
So Mike, what you're saying is, so it wouldn't be enforced for the year, so that way, anybody could come forward to discuss with the city as far as, problems, potential, things we could do better maybe. And then Heather, if I'm not mistaken, you're telling us that, by bringing it to the planning commission to amend it, that is only for us to be able to give out other produce that's not grown on our property.
Yes,
as
because
of
right now
as-
you already can.
So as of
do
right
your own.
now, if we don't have anybody else's produce on that stand, we are in compliance with our ordinances, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Is that correct, Craig?
Correct.
That's
So
all we
what-
really need to know.
Wait,
So why are we running around in circles?
Right.
Because you just voted no on that. What?
So.
Are we allowed to do another vote on this?
Let me get this straight in my mind. If we refer it to the planning commission, regardless of what the planning commission rules, they have the option to have their own produce on their stand permanently. Correct?
Yes.
So the only question the planning commission is gonna address is whether they can bring outside fruit or vegetables in. Okay. I will support your, I didn't quite understand
Okay.
all the ramifications of what it was.
Gotcha.
Can we have a new vote on the motion?
Let's make a new motion.
Make a
and
new
go from
one?
there.
Let me get out my papers again. So my motion is to table this and to send this to the planning commission to do a text amendment, a zoning text amendment to expand 3.280, a small scale produce sales to allow the incorporation of products not grown or produced on the site.
Just to clarify, you're stating that the planning commission, send it to the planning commission to do a text amendment or to review.
To review it, yes, to review a request.
Support.
Roll call vote, please.
Board Member Holly,
Yes.
Board Member DeWitt,
Yes.
Vice Chair Milligan,
Yes.
motion passed.
Well, I'd just like to say regardless, of what the planning commission does decide, now that we do know that there's been some issues raised as far as parking and, hours, obviously our intent is not to have people out our bedroom window at midnight. So we'll do a better job as far as, displaying, daylight hours for people to be able to use this rather than whenever. At least we'll have some guideline, and obviously we'll still be open to, a little bit of movement as far as that's concerned. So, thank you.
Suggestion?
Yes.
Put a parking sign up with an arrow to your parking spot and
Yeah.
put an hours, a little sign with hours 8 to 8 or, something like that. That'll eliminate a lot of the issues that I've heard from the neighbors.
We should review that before you do it though, please.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Moving on to agenda item number 9, reports, comments, ZBA members and zoning administrator.
No report?
You guys good? Right?
No report.
Then the time, so moved. Close the meeting at 8 on the dot. But all right. Get me out of here.
Oh, sure. You guys-